I want to show you how I use the Clay methodology, which is find, enrich, transform, and export to build um, my outbound workflow. And I also use this to get the Clay automated outbound certification. So let's look at what this workflow looks like. So I found my companies first, and you see all the information I was able to gather from the companies. And I now had to do some enrichment, right? So enrichment to find the number of Google ads they were running. And I use Ad Intel as a data source for this, Ad Intel. And it gave me the number of Google ads they were actively running and if they were not running any of those ads at all. And then I had to normalize this data to because of what I needed to do with the data. So this was basically like a Clay formula to give me numbers. Um, just give me data of numbers only and not the additional stuff, right? So numbers of Google ads active, number of LinkedIn ads active. And then I use this to determine like a kind of segmentation criteria for depending on the number of Google ads they were running actively at the time. If it was more than 50 plus, that's high. Medium is like 5 to 49, and then it's low if it's less than 5. And this was what gave me um, all of this categorization of paid media spend. And then I was able to find technology start with Built With. I had a Built With account here that gave me information of what technologies they were using. And I was looking for some specific technologies, right? So and then again, after finding technologies, I had to normalize the data to basically give me like what is the exact stack tools found. And then from this, I was able to also like determine based on another categorization, logic that, if they found A/B testing tools or CRM systems or form stack, blah, 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 they need to group them into different type of, stack tools in this list. And that was what I have on this column, right? So the last thing I did now was to determine their CRO maturity. So like conversion rate optimization maturity based on the tools I could find. So it's the company is advanced in CRO if they have more than 3 tools in the A/B testing category. It's moderate if they had 1 to 2 in the A/B testing category. And if they have no CRO measurements, A/B testing tool at all, then they are no CRO, right? And that was my categorization, and I used this to do this. There's also an additional criteria I was able to determine with this data, and that's like their paid media spend. And based on their paid media spend and their CRO maturity as well, I was able to now come up with were they ready for RFO services? So that's tier 1, where the paid media spend is high and their CRO maturity is also advanced. So they're like tier 1 in terms of this offer that I had for them. And anything else aside from that is tier 2. But I was particularly interested in tier 2 for the campaign I was going to run. So what I did was to, segment these tables into 2 tiers. So tier 2 ICP, and then there's tier 1 ICP. And there's not much companies in tier 1 because I did not like find more companies in this range because I was not interested in them, particularly for this campaign, right? So the next thing I did was to also run a find people search, as you will see from the overview. Find companies, give me the table, and then for find companies, I would go on to find people, and I had to connect these 2 tables because I needed to update some information from the company's table into the people's table, so that the data will also help me to send like personalized emails. So we've done the finding, we've done a bit of enrichment, and then also like transforming it in terms of like move, switching data from what I got from Clay to what I actually want to get from it. So something interesting I should show you is, looking at the overview of all the data I got from each company. For instance, this is, funding data, ads found, whatever, and then technologies found, right? And this is also connected to the other table. So I did a write to other table function here to get people. So let's look at people, for instance, now. So I did find people from different companies, like find like 6, let's say 3 to 6 for each company that fall under my particular criteria. So I was looking for specific job titles and roles within those companies. And I also like imported the data back here in terms of like active ads on Google and LinkedIn, as well as the company name, the stack tools, and all of the other things are qualified from the company side, right? So paid media spend, CRM maturity, which would sum up to give me the revenue funnel optimization readiness, which is my tiering, right? And everybody here is tier 2. right? Because I want to send a campaign to tier two only. So I had to also break down, first name, last name, because if you're sending emails, you only need mostly first name for your so-called email personalization. The job titles as well, mainly heads of growth and VP of marketing, and people that really do like demand gen and performance. And these are the locations and company domain back and then LinkedIn. So I did a waterfall here, which would give me like if it looks at their email profile, we can look at what the formula thing is. So I use a bunch of email providers here to look at the full configuration. So if it looks through ICPs, because I kind of stacked it from like the cheapest provider to the most expensive. So if it finds the emails with this provider, then it's not going to run the rest, right? The run condition will not be met. But if it doesn't, it keeps going. So that's the waterfall enrichment style of things, right? And I did a conditional run settings as well. Like it should only run if it doesn't find, and it should only run if these are people that meet my tiers, right? The tier of my campaign, because I can show you so this is also a segmented table. For tier one contacts, it's not going to run the enrichment because they don't meet the criteria. So I don't waste my click credits, right? So let's go back to tier two, and we've run the enrichment for the contact, and we're able to gather their emails. Yeah, so I can collapse so if you see, if the email is found, it's not going to run the rest of the conditions for email, right? So I can collapse this table and let's just move away from finding emails, right? So there is a particular part here now that is important, which is the email template, right? So there's a configuration I did. I wrote a very long prompt that is based on the enrichment signals, like the CRO maturity, job title, first name, and company name. And then I gave it a bit of like criteria and information of what I was looking for. Something curious here that I also did was that I added documents, about my outbound messaging, like in terms of some of the examples or structures of the emails that I want to send to my contacts, right? And then these are some of the data that was used for the enrichment. And curious enough, I actually used ChatGPT for writing my email because my prompt was very good. So some people prefer to use Claude for writing emails, but I'm of the opinion that if you prompt ChatGPT very well, you will get like very high quality. So what this did for me was that it gave me like email subject one, the subject line, which I usually want, and then I threaded the rest, which is like the body of the email, three parts email sequence. And we can look at what that looks like here. So for each contact that I've run that personalization email stuff, it gives me a subject, right? So this is where the GPT actually works. And I have an API key connected for ChatGPT, so I was able to add that to Clay. So it gives me like, leaky ad spend is the subject, and then it starts with the person's name, hi Lauren, blah, blah, blah. So everything was written in plain text because it kind of improves the readability as opposed to HTML, right? And then, three very short emails that have like various value propositions there. And this is what I was going to export to the sequencer, which is Smartlead, right? So this is actually what it looks like in Smartlead. So for every lead that I have in the sequence, right, it gathers the detail, and this campaign is actually completed. So it sends, hi Lauren, blah, blah, blah. So email one, email two, email three, and then this is the subject line. And this was the email that was sent out. And in terms of performance, it actually like gave me, the campaign was completed. I got, I think, 10 replies thereabouts, and this is the inbox. So an additional stuff we should look at is how I actually structured this. So mostly when I work on any workflow like this, I actually have like a very long and clear documentation of how I was able to put everything together, right? So I defined a lot of things here in terms of my target audience, all the A/B testing stack thing I was talking about here in terms of enrichment and classification, and then enrichment, in terms of like, okay, I want to use the detected tools, paid media spend to determine their CRO maturity, and then I'll put them into tiers, and then I'll only send to a particular tier. So this is everything. Let's look at how all of this worked out for me in terms of like the Clay certification. So Clay has an automated outbound certification, which I have actually, scaled, and I'm certified now on Clay. And then the feedback I got from Clay in terms of like how my table was built is here, right? So I actually scored 98%. out of 100 in terms of how I was able to use, meet all the criteria in terms of data collection, segmentation, and then like readability and workflow design, right? I think the only thing I didn't do was to like add additional labels to my table, right? Because that could have been improved, right? So copy refinement and documentation transparency, right? So these are very not even directly related to how well my table was built. So I've gotten certified by Clay. And additionally, I actually like developed a prompt that helps you to review your Clay table, right? So if you build a Clay table, but if you have the documentation the way I have, you can download, this is documentation of my table, my table, my Clay workbook, right? So I downloaded that. I downloaded the outbound certification requirements, right, as well. And then with my prompts, and then I fed that into ChatGPT to give me like a score. So it scores me based on the Clay certification criteria, which I had somewhere here. So yeah, this is some of the evaluation framework from Clay in terms of what they were looking for. And it's not going to be 100% accurate, but it'll give you a good sense of what to improve if you need to improve on, your on how you've built your workflow and all of the other criteria that you need to meet to pass the certification. So yeah, this is my Clay workbook and workflow on how I was able to build this enrichment. And cheers, see you in the next one.